Om Namah Shivaya. So we continue with the topic of how to establish daily sadhana. So Swami Sivananda gave the spiritual diary, which includes all the items that a yogic aspirant should follow. So we saw until a question. So these are a series of questions that we are supposed to, basically it's like a checklist of the items we should be doing daily, and then at the end of the day we take the diary and we go through the checklist to see what we actually done. So we are at question number 10. How long were you in the company of the wise, or satsanga? Swami Sivananda says, satsanga is a safe boat to take the aspirant to the other shore of fearlessness, the shore which is beyond darkness. So darkness means ignorance. The idea is that wherever we turn in this world, we will get just knowledge which will bind us. This is just the reality of things. And satsanga means that we are in the company of truth. Satsanga. So when we are in the company of the teachings, when we are in the company of saints and great yogis, etc., then our mind is exposed to the nature of reality. And this is extremely important because it directs our life in the right direction. See, any other knowledge ultimately is a samsaric knowledge, which means it will generate confusion in our mind. So therefore the great importance of the exposure to teachings, to serious practitioners, to accomplished yogis, etc., because it will divert our mind in the right direction and save us so much suffering. Swami Sivananda says that saints are those that save people's lives from becoming shipwrecks. So samsara is like a vast ocean, and it's a very deep ocean. Also, it's described as having no shores. So it's a shoreless ocean. How are you going to get out of it? You see, there's no bottom, there are no shores. And not only that, Swami Sivananda says it's full of very dangerous creatures. It's a special ocean. It has also crocodiles swimming in the ocean, and big sharks and whales, and you have nowhere to go. That's samsara. So, but he says the saints are those that help the struggling aspirants, preventing their lives from becoming shipwrecks in this ocean of samsara. This is the idea. This is satsanga. Then 11. How many hours did you observe mauna? Mauna means silence. So he says, observe mauna always for your own spiritual growth and not for making the public understand that you are a great yogi. Always scrutinize your motives in doing any action. So the idea is that Swami Sivananda got the sense that some practitioners are using mauna in order to appear like, like a silent yogi, or, so great that you don't speak anymore. You are not able to speak because something like this, right? So therefore he is warning. Don't do these practices, not only mauna, any practice. Don't do it for the sake of showing to other people what you're doing, because then your practice is being used by your lower mind. See, so Swami Sivananda says, always scrutinize your motives. Even spiritual practices can be used by the ego to inflate the ego. Okay, so we have to be very careful with how we are doing practices. So Mauna is very important because Mauna checks the speech. Usually, whatever comes in the mind immediately comes through the tongue. There is no valve, right? No, the valve is totally open, right? So whatever comes in the mind, immediately we say, right? And this is one of the ways how human beings create the most problems in their own life and other people's lives, by speech. Uncontrolled speech generates so many problems in humanity. So many. And therefore the yogis say, for a yogi, it's extremely important to learn to control the speech, which is a difficult thing. See, the tongue is regarded as the most difficult sense organ to control twice, not once. Because the tongue is an organ that is the seat of two very difficult functions. One is speech, which is very difficult to control. Second is taste, also very difficult to control. So both these very difficult functions sit on the tongue. Therefore, we should be very, very careful. You see, we think that if we say something, people forget. They don't forget anything. They will remember what you said for years. See, they appear like they forgot, but no one forgets anything. You see, so the arrows that come through the tongue are very, very difficult to undo. So therefore, we should be extremely careful. And so this is the idea. And also, when we control the tongue, we learn to see our own mind. You see, because we just say whatever comes in the mind, we don't look at the mind, because we just say it. But if we put a dam and we don't allow the words to just come out, we will be forced to look at our own mind. You understand? And then we begin to see what is actually coming up in the mind. And then we will think, should I actually say this type of things? You see? So the idea is that if you think every word that you are about to say, whether you should say it, you will find that you will remain mostly silent. Okay? Because you will see that most of the speech is useless. That's the truth. It's called idle chit-chat, idle talking or gossiping or backbiting. And these are things that yogis recommend to uproot from the mind very, very systematically. Okay? Then 12. How long were you in disinterested selfless service? So Karma Yoga. So Swami Sivananda explains that Karma Yoga is the master method to purify the mind. Therefore, to perform Karma Yoga is a necessity for a spiritual aspirant. So the meaning is to do actions which are of a selfless nature. Meaning, selfishness manifests as what we call attractions and aversions, raga and dvesha. So the idea is to act according to duty, according to what needs to be done, according to what is beneficial, what is uplifting others and ourselves, regardless whether I like it or not. That's the idea. So the beginning of Karma Yoga is perform your duties What are the duties? Duty is that which uplifts, that which generates well-being, upliftment, inspiration, leads to the highest good of yourself and of others. This is called duty, regardless whether you like it or not. That's the idea. Whether you feel like it or not. So the idea is no one asks you. That's called karma yoga. You see, it's very freeing. Because when we ask ourselves, it becomes a burden. Do I want it? Do I don't want it? Do I like it? And then the yogis say, forget about yourself. Just do what is necessary. That's very freeing. See, when we don't ask ourselves, it becomes very freeing. If we ask ourselves, it's very difficult to decide. Should I do it? Should I not do it? Like this. That's the point. So karma yoga is doing our duties, that which is uplifting, selflessly, regardless whether we are liking it or we are not liking it. We just do it. 13. How much did you give in charity? So, charity is a very important practice to open the heart to the needs of others. Swami Sivananda says, be generous, give charity generously to needy people, etc. And he says, performance of the virtuous actions is the beginning of spiritual life. So doing actions like charity, etc., is the foundation of spiritual evolution. 14. How many mantras did you write? This is Likita Japa. Writing the mantra in a notebook is a very beautiful and powerful practice. To daily take some time and write your mantra in a notebook as a meditation. So you focus, you keep your eyes on the mantra, you repeat it mentally, you keep silent. It's like a meditation which engages all of your senses, and therefore it's much easier to do. 15. How long did you practice physical exercises? So Swami Sivananda was a great proponent of physical exercise. He said, of course, asanas are extremely important, but he says asanas for physical well-being are not enough. You need physical exercise also. But he said of a mild type, not something which will exhaust you, something which will keep your body fit, but not exhaust you. So he said something like mild running, some walking, swimming, this type of things, in a mild way, not something extreme, is beneficial for the body. It will keep you fit, which is necessary for your physical well-being as well as your mental well-being. If the body becomes unfit, it will pull the mind down. Okay, so this is the idea. 16. How many lies did you tell, and with what self-punishment? So the idea is, so this is virtue practice. There are a few questions about cultivation of virtues. So the idea is that we should monitor during the day what type of untruth are we saying. Now, untruth can be bluntly like telling a lie. That's one way. Another way is that, we divert, we manipulate the truth, so it sounds okay, but we know that we are making the person to understand something that we want them to understand. Okay? This is another, like, manipulation of the truth is another form of lie. There are many ways of how a person can lie. So the idea is that yogis should avoid all this type of lying, because lying diverts the mind into untruth. It clouds the mind, and then the mind cannot connect to reality. You see, truth is reality. That's all it is. So when we learn to speak the truth, we teach the mind to see reality. Okay, so Swami Sivananda says, God is truth. The truth is attained by the truth. So truth is the means, truth is the goal. In order to attain the truth, we should learn to speak the truth. This is the idea. And this is a practice. Okay, so it's a difficult practice. The practice is, the yogis have what is called brahmanas. Brahmanas are, how do you know, because you see, how do you know that it's the truth? That's the first thing you should see. In order to speak the truth, you should know what is the truth. And the yogis have means for right knowledge. How do you know that knowledge is truth? You see, this is not trivial. We may be thinking we are saying the truth, but we are not, right? For example, a simple example is someone is asking you, is there fresh bread today? Say yes, there is fresh bread, right? You didn't see that there is fresh bread. You assume that there is fresh bread because usually every day there is fresh bread being baked in the kitchen. But that day, there was no fresh bread being baked. You understand? So you didn't confirm it. You assumed. This is untruth. You understand? Not validating your knowledge is an untruth. That's an example of how we are very casually saying lots of untruth because we don't validate our knowledge. So yogis have means of validating knowledge, and adhering to those means is saying the truth. You see? So, for example, the means of right knowledge are direct experience. You know it yourself. Correct inference. You go through correct logical analysis. And third, which is the most important, is competent testimony. Your source of knowledge is yogically acceptable, which means for yogis means above all scriptures and saints. Okay, so we need to have proper sources of knowledge. Okay, for example, to say it's on the internet, therefore it's true, is not so strong in the sense of what you are basing your truth on. You understand? So for a yogi, you see, this is critical because basing our knowledge on wrong sources means you are going to miss the goal of life. That's for sure. You understand? You are going to divert your life based on wrong knowledge. It's very simple. See? And samsara is an overwhelming amount of wrong sources of knowledge. You understand? If you want to find sources of right knowledge, you will have to make an effort. If you are not careful, you will definitely stick to wrong sources of knowledge. It's very easy. You understand? If you don't check yourself, then the chances of following wrong knowledge are very, very high. That's how it is. Okay? So for yogis, this is like a life and death matter. You see? It's very, very, so therefore the yogis have a very, very developed method of how to evaluate right knowledge. Because for yogis, knowledge is like life and death. It's attaining the goal of life or missing the goal of life. Very simple. You see? So this is critical. So speaking the truth is a practice of developing right knowledge. That's basically the idea. 17. How many times and how long of anger, and with what self-punishment? So self-punishment means something of an educationary nature. It's not that you beat yourself up. That's not the yogic way at all. You should never do something to hurt yourself. This is yogically prohibited. The meaning is, for example, maybe the next day you will avoid chocolate, right? So the mind will be very afraid to tell a lie, because next day I cannot touch chocolate anymore, right? The mind will be afraid, see, like this. Or when you, after evening satsang, when you are supposed to go to sleep, you have to sit 10 minutes and repeat your mantra, right? That's very good, but the mind, the mind likes to go to sleep. It doesn't like to do this type of things late at night. So this is the meaning of self-punishment. It's something of an educationary nature. This is the idea. So same with anger. So the idea is that you should monitor and count how many times you got angry during the day, and then report it in your spiritual diary at the end of the day. Then every time you get angry, you will start counting. See? So gradually your mind will move away from becoming angry. This is that. So the idea is to become aware of what's going on. How many hours did you spend in useless company? This is extremely important, one of the most important items. Swami Sivananda says the so-called friends are real enemies. So, you see, when you want to follow a spiritual path, what is a friend and what is an enemy takes a whole different meaning. Because usually what we call as friend is people that we are attached to emotionally. You see? Emotional attachment is what we ordinarily called friendship. You see? But actually, these relationships, if they are sources of wrong knowledge, actually are binding. They are not conducive for us. You understand? The fact that we are emotionally attached to someone doesn't mean that this is a conducive relationship. Actually, many times, these are harmful relationships which are difficult for us to give up because of the emotional attachment. You see? So emotional attachments are not a criteria for good relationship. Not at all. You understand? So relationships which are sources of uplifting knowledge, clear knowledge, spiritual strength are good for us. Relationships which are clouding our mind, bringing doubts in our mind, weakening us spiritually, shaking our faith, these are not good for us. You understand? Even if we are emotionally attached to those people, they are not good for us. And therefore, it's good to either minimize them or ultimately give them up. Okay? That's that. Okay, so we'll end here. Om, Om, Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, peace, peace, peace. Ambalo Sadguru Sivananda Maharaj ki jai. Vishnu Devananda Maharaj ki jai.